Hello and welcome everyone to our virtual workshop. I'm James with WorldStrides, and thank to each of us for joining here today. Today's evening's workshop is titled Leadership in Band. It will be hosted by Mr. Edrick Rhodes, with more than 19 years of teaching experience in the school district of Palm Beach County Public Schools as the K-12 Arts Education Administrator and Director. Mr. Rhodes is now currently the Director of Curriculum and Administration at the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in Washington, D.C. Mr. Rhodes will use this time today to discuss the various career pathways through music education, from the podium of a music educator to the district arts administrator to arts management and more. We're so honored and thrilled to have Mr. Rhodes here with us today. So without further ado, I will hand it over to you, Mr. Edrick Rhodes.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here today and to just talk about some great things as far as leadership and just career paths through music education. Again, my name is Edrick Rhodes. Just a little bit about me. Currently, right now, I'm the Director of Curriculum and Administration at the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in Washington, D.C. Prior to that, I was the K-12 Arts Administrator for the School District of Palm Beach County down in South Florida. And before coming into that position for 8 years, I was a band director. I was a band director in Miami-Dade County for a couple of years, and then I moved to Palm Beach County, where I stayed majority of my time there as a music educator. I've come from a long line of band directors. My dad was a band director in Miami-Dade County. His two brothers were band directors, and my brother just retired, was a band director in Miami-Dade County. So band has been in my life throughout all the time I can remember. It's been something that's been woven into me, and seeing that and experiencing that is probably why I feel most passionate about leadership and watching my family, watching my dad be a leader, a band master himself, and just understanding the tools of how to be successful in this field. I would like to go over a couple of things. First, just want to start off with the first question: what is leadership? And I don't think there's one particular answer, especially when we talk about within the band program. But if we wanted to give just a minor definition, we would talk about that being encompassing the ability to lead, influence, or guide individuals, teams, or an organization. That's kind of what we talk about when we generalize leadership. And being a leader, that is very important to encompass the ability to lead and have the confidence in yourself, and to be able to bestow the trust of your peers and your teachers. So, what are leaders in the band? Like, they could be a drum major, they can be a band captain, they could be section leaders, they can be field stage crew, librarians, the uniform staff. I mean, there's no such thing as this is the only leader. I, as a former band director, I valued my quartermaster staff. I valued my librarians. I mean, those are great leaders too. It's not always you have to be the drum major, the one in front of the band program all the time. Some of my best leaders are probably sometimes the silent leaders who just do and do not want all the attention. So I mean, leaderships can come in different fashions. Also too, I've always said, in order to be a good leader, it doesn't start when you are applying for a leadership position. It's starting when you're in ninth grade or whenever you enter the band program. Being that ninth grader or 10th grader on third part, and moving your way through the band program and developing your instrument, that's also a good leader. And I've always said for me, and I learned this from my father, not necessarily the best leaders are the best musicians. Sometimes the best musicians, they don't want to lead. Not vocally, they want to lead through their playing. And so as a leader, though, you do have a dual responsibility of being able to be the example or an exemplar on your instrument. I think that's very important because, again, your friends and your peers are going to look at you and go, well, how would I listen to you when you don't even practice? And so in order to alleviate any friction like that, I think it's very important that you are pretty sound on your instrument. I'm not saying you have to be the best player. That's not necessary, but you should be a good example where you could take a ninth grader and support and help, or take a younger musician and sit down with them and be able to do those things. That's kind of what good leadership is in my eyes as a band director. There's tons of examples and people have other opinions, but from my perspective and experience I've had in and out of the band room, that's really, really critical component. Moving on, I think also too, the biggest thing for me as a band director was building trust. Um, as with your band director, you must, to me, have be a carbon copy of your band director and knowing right from wrong and being able to support your band director any way possible. Trust means confidence. And I also believe that trust equals integrity. And when you're having those things together, confidence and integrity, that means you can lead the students and you can lead by example. And I want to just back up for a second. I also am a firm believer that leadership is not only in the band room, but you must be a leader in your other classrooms, because people are watching you all the time. Other teachers know, you're a leader in the band. I mean, the band is at the pep rally, the band's at the football games, the band is all over the place, all over the school, promoting school spirit. And to not be a leader in your classroom, in other classes, that's not always becoming. And I have always, when I talk to my leadership program and team, I would always say, what would, Miss such and such or Mr. such and such say about you in their classroom? Because I know what you do in my class, but what are you doing in their class? And it's not necessarily, I lead in that class. It's being an exemplary student, being a model student, being able to just show that you have respect and you show respect and you're always humble and you're working really hard in and out of the band room. So with that being said, I want to go back to what I was saying about building trust as a leader. You also have to be the eyes of the program and being able to see and hear wrong and reporting that. This is not about, you're a tattletale or you're this, you're that, the name calling we just do not accept or nor tolerate, but you are the eyes of the program because, that program means a lot to you, just like it means to your director. So, I really put a lot of confidence and trust in my program and my leaders when we're talking about being able to be my supporting cast and reporting things when they know something is not right. It's just being a good person and just morally correct. And those are some really, really strong things that I feel that are necessary for leadership. And I want to say, just again, building trust is essential. Moving on, it's a couple of things I would say as we're closing down this school year for many of us, and we're starting a new year this coming summer. A lot of us is going to be starting band camp pretty soon, if not already. Just everyone is starting to reboot themselves. As you close the year, you want to start next year. Now is the time to redefine yourself as a leader. Think about, what do you want to contribute to the program? What do you want to contribute to your community? What do you want to contribute to your section? What do you want to contribute, that's going to really inspire others in your program? Also, too, I would say being the first to arrive and the last to leave a rehearsal is very important when possible. Obviously, sometimes, students don't have the cars, and so they're at the mercy of their parents or other transportation or someone else to get them there. But when you have that opportunity, I always encourage being first there to support the director, to support the band parents, to support any coming new member there. You're the catalyst. I have always felt that. So think about that, being able to be the first and the last to leave when possible. And as I was mentioning before, I'm just looking at some bullets here, knowing your music, and being a good musician. And again, not being the first chair player, but being a good musician within your section that you came from to be able to support other band members. I also believe a good leader should also give positive comments. Whenever there's the end of a rehearsal or something at the end of the week or what have you, or performance, we do good by knowing good. And I think it's really important that as a leader, you voice positive comments. There's a lot of students out there that's always negative or, but this, but that. And as a leader, you always have to see the bright side of it. And that's because you have to be the vision of your director too. You share the same vision, and we cannot be successful as a program or within the band room unless we have positive comments. So I can't stress enough how important it is as a leader to provide positive comments. And then also to be welcoming to freshmen. Right now we live in a very, very, very Very tough world right now where there's a lot of bullying, social media sometimes it's just dangerous. And so we want to use the band room as a place of happiness and refuge for where people feel safe and they feel they can be themselves, they can express themselves, they feel at home. Because you think about it, oftentimes I've had band parents tell me my son or my daughter stays more in the band room than in their own room. And it's true because we have the coolest place on the campus. So with that being said, you want to welcome the freshmen. You want to think about you being a freshman and how you felt and how nervous you was and overwhelmed you was. And you seeing kids that can play very well, big kids that's running all over the place and are very versed in the band program already. They're coming from being in the 8th grade where they were the big fish in the pond in middle school, and now they're the little goldfish now. You have to think in that mindset. So I've always encouraged my upperclassmen and my leaders primarily to be welcoming to freshmen, have a freshman buddy, guide that person, check on that person, have lunch with them. And we're not talking about having lunch during band camp. I've always encouraged my leaders, have lunch during the school year. If you have the same lunch period. In my high school, we had 3 lunch periods. But if you have a lunch period with a freshman, have lunch, be encouraging, share things, share ideas. I think that's really important to build camaraderie and again, building trust, which is really, really important. And then I would say that one of the unspoken things that we don't talk about enough, and I did when I was a band director for leadership, always be thankful to band parents. Band parents are the heart of the program. They're there, the dads are building equipment, the parents are and moms are building equipment, honestly. They're really there before rehearsal, after rehearsal, they're very immersed. And it's really important that we take a moment to always thank band parents, because I think sometimes it goes unnoticed. And we want to make sure we uplift them and recognize the work that they're doing and the sacrifices they make for, one band mom or one band dad to help all students, 50 or 100 or 25 kids or whatever, how many kids it was in your program. They are looking at the greater good and not just their child. So always be thankful for band parents. Another thing I probably want to talk about, things to remember in as far as leadership. Leaders are always reinventing themselves. Through this COVID time and pandemic time, I've talked about this in several podcasts that now is the time to reinvent yourself. No matter if you're a teenager or you're a young adult or you're a professional, we are always looking to reinvent ourselves and make sure we are continuously adjusting and evolving. I think that's very critical in this day and age because it's the only way we can stay ahead of the game of life. And just kind of always thinking about, how can we improve, how we can better ourselves. We can always point the finger at all the problems around us. And I always tell my kids, when you point, look at that thumb, it's pointing at you. And before you can talk about other things that surrounding you, think about yourself and develop and refine and continue to grow within. That's really important. And I also think we have to be positive thinking as a leader. It's critical. It's so easy to be negative, but if we're thinking positively on how we can make an impact, that's key. One thing for me as a band director, when I started, I had a very small band program. I had like total 50 kids in my program down in Miami at Homestead High School. And, I wanted to give the best to my students and I wanted them to have the best experience possible. And, in order for us to do that, I had to think positive. I had to be the visionary. I had to see the end product before my students can even arrive there, for them to trust me. And I will tell them all of these great things is going to happen. And, sometimes I'm like, well, I don't know exactly how we're going to get there, but it was a positive thoughts from within that made me drive myself, the motivation to continue to give positive experience. And from that year, from year 1, we had 50 kids in our program, to year 2, we went up to 100 students. And it was because of the energy and the positive synergy that we were creating in that band program. After my second year, I moved to Palm Beach County, where I took on a school called Olympic Heights High School, which was a very competitive program doing BOA, WGI, and we were all immersed ourselves into the WorldStrides programs and competing across the country. And we had some very great musical moments and moments period that I know our students lasted, kept for a long time. And I see them still to this day, and they post Facebook to me saying, I remember this moment when you took our band to Anaheim, California, or we went to Georgia, or we went to another parts of the country to compete. And it was a great moment. And again, it was the positive thinking of what I had for within, what I wanted more for my students. And so, for me being a band director, I've always wanted to believe that I want to impact. I want to do more. I want to make an impact on a larger number of students. And so for me, through my career path of being a music educator, I had a very small program in Homestead. And then I moved to Olympic Heights, where the program went from 90 kids in year 1 to over 150 kids in year 4. And it was just me trying to create more experiences that will last a lifetime. And it was through positive leadership that was instilled in me from my dad and from my high school band director, me being a drum major in high school, me being a section leader of my French horn section, and just understanding how to navigate that. I will say that when I was going to college and as an undergrad, coming into University of Miami down in Coral Gables, Florida, I was a pretty good French horn player. But one thing as a leader, you also have to be humble. And when I arrived to University of Miami, I realized very quickly I was a good French horn player. In my community, in my circle, I was fantastic. I was great. But in the big picture, I was good, just good. And being able to swallow that and be humble and know how to play within the section, it was through, I test that to my leadership abilities and the things I learned being a leader, of understanding sometimes you don't have to lead from the front. You can blend within the section. And, in a good leader, you could, I was always saying I was the player you could put anywhere. I've always played first part French horn through middle school, through high school, and what have you. And, in college, I had to be humbled in this fact of playing second part and understanding I can be a leader on second part. I can be a leader on third part. If you need me to play fourth part, I can do that too. And that's just acclimating myself. And when we talked about, being a leader, being able to adjust and evolve at all times. And I was doing that even before I realized what I was doing. And so that experience led me to, doing all the successful things that I had at Olympic Heights. And then 4 years later, I was able to move to West Boca High School, where again, we had a very competitive program and we had a very comprehensive program. I also felt like, my students participated in everything. They were in marching band, they was in concert band, they was in jazz band, they was in winter guard, they was in winter percussion. I was very adamant about having a comprehensive program and students being immersed in everything. I never really had a situation where kids were only in one band, concert band, or this or that. We kind of just did it all, because we wanted the full experience of everything. Even chamber music, I was a big proponent of, solos and ensembles, brass choir, woodwind choir, jazz ensemble. There's so many ensembles that we can create within the band program. And their students was able to build leadership opportunities. Hey, you may not be a section leader yet, but you can be the leader of this quartet, or you could be the student conductor of this brass choir, or you could be the leader of this conductor of this woodwind choir. We was always trying to find opportunities with our band program to give students leadership opportunities. So it wasn't necessarily the title of drum major or section leader. You could be the conductor of the pep band. You could be the conductor of the brass choir, of the woodwind choir. There was always a place for you to feel wanted and accepted and needed in our ensemble. So this is, as I say, reinvent yourselves. Think about how your program can be next year. There's no wrong answer. We're starting back school now in many areas from ground zero, and you can build the program of your dreams, right now. And it's a very exciting time to return back to school. And while, I've met some programs that have not played in over, 6 months, 12 months, 13 months, that's okay. It's going to take some time. I think the band directors and students, you have to be patient, and band parents have to be patient. You're not going to be able to walk in and all of a sudden, everything is just picked up where you left off. It's just different. You have an onboarding of new freshmen, new faces, new people moving into new communities. There's a lot of healing that we have to do. And so now is a great time to be a leader and to support your community, support your band director, and take on the responsibility of rebuilding and rebranding who you are. And I hope that excites you, because I know it excites me as a professional. As going back to my life, after I left the school district, West Boca High School, I moved into the district administrator. It was very new job for me, but I was very excited for the opportunities. And doing that position for 8 years and being responsible for curriculum for over 150,000 students for the 10th largest school district in the country was remarkable feeling for me. And to have an opportunity to come to DC to be a leader in arts management for the Kennedy Center has been a dream come true. The impact we're making here, outreach over millions and millions of students across the country. But it was very scary to leave South Florida. That's all I knew. To come up here in November 2019 to be shut down by the COVID was very humbling. But I'm practicing what I preach right now, saying reinventing myself and finding ways to continue to adjust and evolve. And that's where we are right now. We're all doing this. This is not something that that's impossible. I think it's something that we all have to consider as we move on through our lives, and we're adjusting as we work daily to improve ourselves personally and professionally. So, in closing, I want to say that, now is a time for you to again, be excited, rejuvenate, have a great summer, but think about how you can be an impact to your program, to your band director, to your peers, and be a great leader. And I think if you can think about those things as you're moving into the fall, you're going to have a successful year. And I like to just thank the people and my friends at WorldStrides for giving me the opportunity to speak with you. I'm very passionate about this. This is something I love talking about, and I hope to have the opportunity to engage with everyone once again. So thank you so much.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Mr. Edrick Rhodes. And that concludes our virtual workshop for today. Obviously, thank you, Mr. Rhodes, for being here and everything you shared with us. And we hope everyone has a great rest of their day, and have a great night. Okay.